All right, and it says we're live. I hope it's not lying, but hey guys, how's it going?
Hello there.
Oh, well, that would explain a couple things.
Oh yeah, I hadn't gone live yet.
Yeah. Yeah, that would explain that would explain that.
Okay, so this
At
now that the
Boomer.
stream is so now that the stream is live, people can go to the link and everything should be fine on that end, in theory, hypothetically. Um, so yeah, welcome everyone. This is just generally our thank you stream that we wanted to do because
Mm.
a lot of you in this community and a massive outpouring of support from our local church community just really came out in droves for us in ways that we really um,
Appreciate it. We're grateful for it.
and but we couldn't have anticipated. Like we didn't know y'all cared. We
Well, I think the important thing is too is that a, a lot of people tend to be like, well, really, I really can't give much, so maybe not, maybe I won't, and really every little bit helps because, I think people sometimes get lost in, you know, they don't remember that basically, when you all get together and collectively, you know, um, even just a little, even support, even just information, everything, every little bit helps, and so it was absolutely wonderful the outpouring of support that we received.
and there's actually a reason why Mrs. Carnal is on here because there's about a week's worth of of this event of me having COVID that I don't even remember. And she was on the other side managing, well, the doctor
Mhm.
and managing, phone calls with the hospital while Mr. Carnal was very much otherwise incapacitated. So I got COVID. When was it? The 13th or 14th
um
of September.
it was the week of the 15th, and let me see, I'll pull up my calendar here so I can kind of give a timeline. But first it started with our eldest daughter. She was like, oh, I don't really feel good. That was Monday the 13th. And we had so much trouble getting her in to even just get a test, like just anywhere, just like at a sorry if you guys can hear our dog eating in the back. It probably sounds gross, but um nevertheless, munch munch. Anyways, yeah, she said she didn't feel good, and we tried to get her a COVID test. We couldn't even get in. I called all over the place. We had to wait until Tuesday. Well, Tuesday, our youngest wasn't feeling good. She was getting a fever, and I thought, well, let me test them both at the same time. We went to an urgent care. That was the 14th of September.
Ah,
Then the 15th of September, you and I got it.
yep.
And I believe we were diagnosed that day. The 16th, one of our other children got it. And then the last day, the 17th, we went and took the last kiddo to go get tested. And
She's negative. She was negative.
she was negative.
Yeah,
She did not get it at all.
negative and or asymptomatic. But
Yet, yep.
yeah, she tested negative.
And I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize is you did not want to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
You did not get the vaccine. We both kind of, I sat there and I assessed risk. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure I've put worse things in my body at some point in my
I
life.
honestly cannot say that, Martha
and
or
so
Mrs. Carnal. I honestly cannot say this.
and so what so I thought, well, um I'm going to risk it, because And we're seeing some horror stories where children have lost both of the parents,
Mm.
And I do respect your not wanting to get your vaccine.
Well, and just to be clear, you still got it.
I did. Okay, so I went and I got the vaccine and I still got COVID. Now, granted, I mean, a lot of people are telling me, well, you didn't go to the hospital, and that's probably, that's probably because of the vaccine that you didn't go to the hospital. You know what? There is a good possibility that that's the case, but we can't rule out that that might not be the case. We just won't know. We just won't know.
100%.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm still highly skeptical. And I'll be honest, guys, it just started off with like the sniffles. It started off with just like a cough, and I thought, cool, 2 weeks, I get to be home with my family, hang out, chill out.
Yeah.
Guys, in blunt hindsight, if you test positive for COVID and you have symptoms, immediately go to the hospital, to your ER, and throw the sink at this thing.
Well,
Don't.
let me say this: the ER might turn you away. They'll be like, "Oh, you have COVID. Go home. Go see your What you want to do is you want to see your PCP. Get your doctor involved. That way you can
Right.
get the medications that you need right away."
Yeah, but there are two treatments you want to get. You want to get the monoclonal
Antibodies. Yep.
and what is the other thing that they do? Like,
So ivermectin.
no, that was
That is good for early treatment. It is really good for early treatment.
What about the plasma transfer?
Right. Yes, it's the plasma. I geeked out on this thing, so I learned a lot. And basically, early treatment is so important. So once you know that you have it, see your PCP, and they can get you, hydroxychloroquine to start, maybe some, some steroids for some inhalants, maybe a Z-Pack, and if you're gonna weather this thing, with very little symptoms, then that's probably what they'll have you on. But if you get worse, within those first few days, you could ask for the monoclonal antibodies. And the other thing too that I learned that is really important that you should get right alongside the monoclonal antibodies, if you can, is something called ACE inhibitors. ACE inhibitors are simply, they're simply medications that are given to people to lower their blood pressure. Okay. There are a lot of common ones out there, but for some reason, this works really, really good alongside the monoclonal antibodies because the virus gets through these ACE receptors, these ACE2 receptors. And what ends up happening is these blood pressure medications or these ACE2 inhibitor medications basically take up those receptors, thereby sort of providing more of a defense, and preventing the virus from infiltrating through these ACE receptors as much as possible. Now, I'm not a doctor. I want to throw all the possible disclaimers out there. This is how I learned it. I learned this. My friends who were very supportive, family was very supportive, sent me just all this information, and I put it all together, and I was like, I know what we need to do.
Hashtag this is not medical advice.
Right.
So,
but recommendations for sure. See your PCP right away. Definitely. And we took it kind of lightly, I think, right? You said, we were like, somebody asked us at first, how are you feeling? And we were like, oh, it's like the flu. We'll get over this. No problem. Yeah, no. No.
well, we actually have a question. Well, we have a concern. Kingdom of Vinland is asking, I wonder how many others my age were forced to get the jab by their parents or guardians. I'll be honest. I do not support children being given the vaccine. That's unnecessary.
Well, I will say this. I'm really sorry if you didn't want it and they forced you to. I will say this: our children bounced back like so strong, so strong. All four of them got it. I think the worst that I saw was a double ear infection in our youngest. And we just, got some antibiotics and treated that, and she bounced back. They did what our bodies are supposed to do. They got a few fevers, they got some chills, it felt like the flu. They got over it. That's what we were kind of expecting for ourselves.
Yeah,
It
that,
didn't.
They didn't pan out so well for me.
Right. I mean, and it kind of did for me. I got it a little worse, I think.
So now,
And
correct me if I'm mistaken, but the reason for the ACE inhibitors is it stops the virus from traveling through your bloodstream
n-
or something like that.
No.
no.
Okay.
That's not the case. No.
Okay.
In fact, there's very little data to support that it really does get into the bloodstream. They say it can. I'm sure it can. There's all kinds of possibilities, but it's not about it getting into the bloodstream so much as how it, is able to re-enter the body. They can give you the monoclonal antibodies and the remdesivir. The problem is
The remdesivir is the thing that really kicked it in, at least for me while they were treating me.
I would disagree with that. I mean, it did help, but I would disagree with that. Remember, you were like half conscious, and I was, calling the nurses stations every day and asking how you were doing and getting all the data. I'd call you. There was two things that I did. The first one was I'd call you and ask you, how do you feel? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd listen and see how you were sounding. And then I'd go and I'd get all the numbers and all the data from the nurse's desk, and they hated me. Oh my gosh, I could tell. They were like, oh, it's her again. But it was because I was not okay with just taking the, oh, he's looking good. He's feeling good. I was not okay with that. I was like, no. You go down the whole list of medications and you tell me if anything's changed, and go down all his vital numbers and tell me if anything's changed, and go down all the machines he's on and tell me if anything's changed. They did not like that.
I do have to say that's a bit unorthodox and very interesting to hear, because I don't think a lot of spouses of patients would do that. So props to you.
Thank you. Yeah,
I married well. I outdid myself in this department.
But I think if there's a message we can get out there, that is, get treated early. Early treatment is really important. And a lot of people, what they want to do is they want to do what we did, which is, oh, we'll wait and see, if we're not feeling good or if anything bad happens. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because I'll tell you, we didn't wait too long, but by the time we got to the doctor and we have an awesome PCP, and he gave us what we needed. Part of the problem was with all this supply chain issue. And I don't know if many of you out there have thought about this. With the supply chain issue, we had gotten a prescription for the steroid inhalants. Now that's really important. You kind of need that. Well, I thought, okay, he can't breathe. He's starting to turn blue and all these colors, and he's going hypothermic because your body was not normal. The kids were getting fevers. They were getting over it. You were not getting a fever, so I wasn't worried about you. I was like, oh, you've got a case of the man flu. You need to get over this, like, come on.
Mm-mm.
And you were like, no, really, I'm not feeling good. I'm like, come on, you don't even have a fever. Well,
But we need to stop for 1 second.
yeah.
Guys, she made me grilled salmon with like
Oh my God.
delicious and buttered squash, and
It's your favorite meal.
it is my favorite meal that
I was
she
trying to
makes.
entice him to eat. The man would not eat.
I wouldn't eat it.
He would not eat anything. And I was like, I'm going to make him the biggest, baddest, most favorite meal. and he would not eat. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm worried. So we and really I knew something was up when, first of all, you didn't have a fever. You were going down bit by bit on the temperature, the thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of our children was playing around with the thermometer and says, Daddy's temperature, the thermometer won't read Daddy's temperature. That's crazy. And I was like, what? Let me see that. And I took it to read your temperature. And I realized I had to go bust out the old school thermometer so that I could get your temperature, and you were going hypothermic. So I called our doctor. I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before. I don't know what to do.
That's a curious symptom.
Yeah. And so he said, well, it's trying to give him pneumonia. It's trying to attack his body here. And he threw a bunch of stuff at us. And one of them was the steroid inhalant. Now, I don't know if you guys have thought about this or anything, but it's equally as important to get early treatment, because when I went out into our town to get him his prescriptions, every single pharmacy I went to was out of nebulizers. Not just first of all, they were out of the steroid inhalant, but also they were out of the machines. So when I did get the inhalant and I was like, okay, great, I got the inhalant. Okay, give me the nebulizer. They were like, yeah, we don't have those. Problem.
Yeah.
So he could not get the treatment that he needed for at least 24 hours because of these supply chain issues. So I had to, really think really hard. And I remembered that my daughter, when she was my eldest, when she was 5, had a nebulizer, and it might be somewhere in the garage. And I dug it out and blew the dust off of it. And thank goodness it cranked right up and worked. So we were able to get you on those treatments, but I really feel like by then it was too late.
Yeah, but by then it was pretty bad. Now, I believe it started when I was in bed, shivering cold, and she finally tested my
Oxygen levels, yes.
And what was I at when you tested me?
Okay, well, they say they want you to be in the high 90s. That's ideal. 97, 95 is pushing it, but 97, But when you and then you started dipping down in the 80s, and I started getting really worried when the oximeter finally got to a point where it struggled through the 70s to finally get you to a solid like 79. I told you, I said, get your stuff and pack it. We're leaving. We're going to the hospital. You kind of looked at me like, what? And I was like, I said, I'm not kidding. Get your stuff. We're going to the hospital.
I was too dazed and confused to care.
I was like, I'm not playing. This is where I don't play right here. We packed you up, got you to the hospital. The strange thing, it wasn't strange. It was just, there was a lot of people there. And then when you went back to be triaged, we had been waiting there for a while. When you went back to be triaged, and I was waiting there for a while after, and I asked the lady, I said, I'm sorry, can you tell me what's going on with my husband? And they were like, oh yeah, he's going to be a while. So you should just, if you've got kids, go home, and he'll call you if he's not going to be admitted. And I said, okay, well, if he does get admitted, I'll just see him later, right? I'll just, and she was like, no, ma'am, that's it. You're not going to see him.
Yeah. I didn't see my family for
5 weeks, something like that. No, not 5 weeks.
It was
Probably
like 2.5.
No, it was more than that.
Oy vey.
Yeah. But 5 weeks total is what it was that we went through from, I would say, from the 15th all the way. No, it was more than that. Because 5 weeks, I would say, is when it started through when you got out of the hospital. But that wasn't the end of our journey, because
No.
you were still at home recovering.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was
And that was at least a few more weeks after that. I said, you had a Freebird syndrome. You just thought you were gonna get it out of that hospital bed and just do everything you ever dreamed.
Yeah, I'm a stubborn old man. I can't help it.
So, but I think one of the big things too is once he was admitted, they gave him this sort of standard treatment. They put him on Remdesivir and
No, they hadn't put me on Remdesivir. They didn't do that until after you blew a gasket. Because there was a couple of days where I did not make any improvement.
well, okay. They said that what happened was they tried to put you on a regular oxygen cannula up your nose.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to get your oxygen stabilized. It was not working. So then they had to put what was called forced oxygen, not a ventilator, but forced oxygen. And that what was that it's got a little dial on it and it goes from 0 to 60. Okay. And they needed a toy with it to get your oxygen levels up to like the high 90s like they want,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't working, and they had to push it all the way up to 30. And I remember I was worried, and one of the nurses had no idea. She gave me the most valuable information right then in this tiny little statement. She said, "Oh, don't worry. He's at a 30 right now. The machine goes all the way to 60. He's not going to be on a ventilator unless we push this machine all the way to 60 and his oxygen levels don't stabilize." In all this back and forth of information and millions of calls, and my brain zeroed in on that because that was right there my obsession, I guess you could call it, for the next, like, I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I needed to know. So you were at 30, and guys, when he went into the hospital, let me tell you, he was this is what he said. Okay, I would say after the first or second night, he sounded like this. That he could not breathe. It was terrible, and it got worse. So then when they pushed the machine up to 60, and they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me. I was angry at the nurses about that. They tried to tell me, "Oh, well, he got better. He got better." I flipped out. I got angry and I lit him up. I did. I lit him up. I'm usually really, really nice, but I lit him up that day, and I didn't understand why they didn't call me and tell me on such a drastic change that the machine went all the way up. And the nurses were trying to make me feel better. And they were like, "No, no, he's doing good. He's doing better. His oxygen levels have stabilized, honey. Your husband feels he's doing better." And I screamed at them. I yelled. I was like, "Don't you dare tell me my husband is better. He's not better. He's worse." I was like, "Thank you for stabilizing him. Yes, you did your job. You did a good job. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you." And guys, I'm not mean. I was sending candies. I was sending because I wanted them to treat him well. So, but that made me angry. I mean, you don't have a big change in status like that and not tell somebody. And that's when they moved him up a floor in the hospital, and we all know what that means, right? When they move you up a floor in the hospital,
Yeah.
that's not good.
No.
Right? So he got moved up a floor, and I knew right then that he was on the brink of getting on a ventilator. And to me, I didn't want him to get on a ventilator because I felt like that was the point where he couldn't advocate for himself. It was already bad enough I couldn't be there to advocate for him in the middle of his delirium and weakness. but he couldn't advocate for himself. He couldn't speak if he had a ventilator in his mouth. Not only that, but if he needed to take anything, he wouldn't be able to take it. Now, here's what I mean by that. Okay. Here's what I mean by that is they were giving him, okay, so I flipped out. I told them I wanted him to be on the monoclonal antibodies. I got told no. I said I want him to have the vitamin C, which I noticed is not on the medication list. I want him to be on zinc, which is not on the medication list. I get why you didn't put him on why you took him off of the hydroxychloroquine, and that's because he's on Redemsivir, and that would be some sort of drug interaction with that. But I also want him on the ACE inhibitors. And they were like, oh, we can do everything else, but we're not going to do the monoclonal antibodies. That's something that's done before you get into the hospital. And I was like, I realize that, and I don't care. I want you to do it anyways. So I got a few no's, shoved around questions about, okay, who do I need to talk to? And then they were finally like, okay, yes. So they gave him the monoclonal antibodies along with the ACE2 inhibitors, and he actually improved a little bit. To me, it wasn't enough. He seemed to stabilize. And so one of the things that I did not quite bring up, because I knew I would get a no, was ivermectin. So what I did instead was I spoke to our PCP, and I said, I asked them, I said, Frank's in the hospital, right? And he said, well, yeah. He said, but the way that it works now, I really can't, there's nothing I can do. My hands are tied now because there's, a medical group, that that treats them in the hospitals. I said, okay. I said, that's fine. I get it. But would you prescribe him ivermectin? And our doctor's office basically said, well, why would we do that? He's in the hospital. He's not able to take it. They're not going to let him have it, and you're not able to visit him. I said, okay. I said, I get that. But I said, let me worry about how to get it to him. If will you write him a prescription? And they said yes. I said, okay. And I will not disclose right now how, my husband was able to get the ivermectin, but I was able to get that to him. And we're very thankful, because after that we really saw
it was thug life status, gents. It was impressive.
I called him and I asked him, do you want this? And he said yes. And I said, well, and if I can get it to you, will you take it?
And I did.
Yes, and he did. He was very good about it. So, but I mean, this is the big lesson I think here is that you have to advocate for yourself. You have to have somebody advocate for you, and they need to educate themselves. It's really important.
Yeah, and don't take no for an answer, as Marcin says here. In the end, the health proxy or patient is ultimately in charge of the treatment they receive. You're right. In the end, they had to give me the monoclonals, because that's what the treatment that I requested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I have a theory. Here's my theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think that there's a bunch of big boys basically that, that lobby and deal with and make the big money in the pharmaceutical industry. And I think there's sometimes the little guys who, could make a remarkable difference, but the big boys don't want the little guys playing in the market, and so they try to push them out. That's my best guess. That's my theory. And unfortunately, the makers of ivermectin or powers that be, what have you, that have to do with that, they don't want them in there. That's my theory. I don't know if it's true. And our physician is very on board with that. Hey, we work. If that's what you want to do, throw the kitchen sink at it. Who am I to say no? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not doing you harm, you know, why shouldn't we try it? You know?
And then at that point, I became somewhat conscious, and I started breathing again.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I realized it's been about a week and a half, and I need to start moving again. And now, mind you, I'm still attached to oxygen. I'm still getting a steady stream of air in through my nose. And I realize, as I'm trying to maintain my O2 levels, which I'll be honest, gentlemen, it was very uncomfortable to admit this, but taking a dump could drop me down to like back down to 70 in terms of O2 levels.
They were telling him. They were telling him, do not move. Do
Yeah.
not get out of your bed.
As I'm in recovery.
Yeah.
So at that week and a half mark, I decide, or I realize, hey, it's time for me to get up and move again.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you the horror one feels when your feet hit the floor after being in a bed for a week and a half. That is not.
You realize I can't stand.
Yeah. You're just like, oh shit, like this is real. I can't walk. I can't move.
I don't. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but Carnal is he goes to college and
Yeah.
he takes classes, and he's very smart. He's very he's very dedicated. And I remember he had just started the semester, and he was like, no, don't withdraw me from my classes. I was like, are you nuts? There is
Yeah.
no way you're going to be able to. No, he couldn't. He would tell me that holding the phone to his face made him tired. That's how bad this thing was. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I went out and I got him headphones, earphones, so that he could talk and not have to, like, exert all this energy just holding the phone to his head. I was like, how are you going to even have a laptop and try to study and do all this stuff and deal with all this, because frustrations of your classes and trying to figure them out.
I repeat, I'm a stubborn old man.
Yeah. And so finally I had to get him withdrawn with on an exception in order to
Yeah, I can just jump back the next semester. It's not a big deal.
But-
However, gentlemen, this is the point in which yeah, I began trying to walk again while trying to maintain O2 levels, and that continued until they let me out of the hospital, in which case, yes, I got Freebird syndrome.
You did.
And so I'm slowly, very, very slowly, um, becoming mobile again.
You were in agony that first night. Agony.
Yeah, I got out of the hospital. I I got out of the hospital, and then I walked up the driveway of my parents' house, walked down, and then I
Walked
went
home.
then I walked around the house, and that evening my legs, my knees, my ankles were on fire. Okay. So, um, and when I say on fire, I mean I was on my phone trying to figure out what the heck was going on, and I just knew based on the first impression Google searches, this was not a blood clot, and I just gave up. I'm like, okay, I know what this is. It is the most intense version of muscle soreness I have ever experienced in my life. It was looks like the stream is hanging, but Streamlabs is good.
I felt so bad for you. I really did. I just, there was nothing I could do. Nothing. And luckily, like I said, we have a good PCP, so you were able to, you know, you were able to get some meds to help with that pain, because the pain was just
Oh my gosh.
unbearable.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, gentlemen, learning that you have to rip, tear, and repair your legs until they start to work normally again is not good, not fun. And doing that while maintaining O2 levels, also a pain in the rear. But then I get to do a video chat with my primary caregiver, my primary care physician, and he looked over my charts and told us some other interesting information. Apparently, while I was in the hospital, I developed sepsis.
Yeah, they conveniently left that out of the information every time I asked them if there was any change. But we found that out from our PCP who read the report to us after you got out of the hospital.
Okay, we actually have a good question. Was it a hospital-acquired infection?
I
Well,
don't know the answer to that.
yeah, neither do I. I just simply assumed that the
You didn't have sepsis when you went in there. So, so I can only assume you got it at the hospital. I mean, I wasn't allowed in there. I didn't bring it to you, so you weren't allowed any visitors, so I can only assume it was acquired in the hospital. If that's what you mean,
Marcin Johansson.
yeah, Marcin, if that's what you mean, then yes, it was acquired at the hospital. He did not go when he went in. He did not have sepsis. They kept doing blood tests pretty regularly. And so they had to have known at first when he went in there, he did not have it. And just before, either just before, I think it was just before you went to the 4th floor,
Mm-hmm.
you developed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so what they're also saying is sepsis, however, indicates issues with kidney functions. Kidneys aren't able to filter out wastes for that time.
Oh,
So,
okay. So maybe that's, maybe you didn't get it from the hospital. Maybe it was a kidney thing. See, I'm learning something new. I didn't know that, and I'm a nerd, so thank you. I love learning new things.
but no, my doctor basically showed up during this video call and confirmed. He's like, "So, you almost died."
Yeah. Folks, he did not believe me. It was like he was like, yeah, he was kind of like, yeah, it's not as bad as you're saying, And then his doctor was like, yeah, you're lucky.
Mind you, gentlemen, I was the one who went through it. I was the one in the hospital bed. I'm the one who can't remember half of the experience. I still thought that this was, whatever. But I am literally that thick-headed.
I don't know when people say ventilator, yes, some people are able to overcome it and come home. That, in my experience, now I don't know where I could get the data or see that, but I'd be interested to know, because when I hear stories of people going on ventilators, I rarely hear about them getting to come home. So I knew, I was like, I do not want you getting on a ventilator, because to me that was like going down the wrong. That was 3/4 of the way there, So yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't until that conversation with our primary care physician where I finally realized, yeah, this was a close call, and I need to perhaps take it a bit more seriously.
I haven't let me tell you, I haven't prayed on my knees like that in a while. In a while. It's been a long time. And we had, I'm going to tell you that our church community had sent out, requests to everyone for support, for prayers, for everything, throw the kitchen sink at it. and that makes a difference. It really does, you know. Um, yeah.
And if I am informed about the amount of prayer and support that went out on my behalf.
Hmm.
Um, and it's scary. Well, it's not scary. It is humbling
Yes.
because there are so many people in our church community who are dying from this.
Yeah. Well, shoot, and even I mean, not just prayers, but even just good thoughts, good information, good. I had people reaching out to me and telling me, "Hey, about the ivermectin. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?" And all this kind of,
A shout out to conserva nerd Jonathan. He helped us out tremendously. He hooked
absolutely.
us up with some friends. For those of you who uh, did contribute to the GoFundMe, um, you'll notice that in the description is a nickname, the Storm and Mormon. That's actually that is the nickname I got from the Proud Boys, and Jonathan is one of my friends from the Proud Boys who really did help us through this debacle. It was them that told us that we could get that prescription for ivermectin and have it jailhouse smuggled into the hospital.
Well, and there's also Sean Anthony. Sean Anthony had reached out, and he was, really supportive, giving information. He was talking about some of the therapeutics that his I think it was his dad was on. I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but he was talking about the ivermectin, and he was talking about some um arsenic album, like 200 C.
Now I'm pretty sure Mandatory Carry is trolling me, but he's asking, was there a GoFundMe? I'm like, yeah, we saw your donation, sir. You are listed as a donor to that GoFundMe. Don't lie to me. I know that you know.
Yes, there was, and that's why we're here. We're here to thank everybody. We're here to share our how our cup runneth over.
And
Really.
look, the reason why the stream is formatted the way that it is because the greatest thank you that we can give, in addition to saying thank you, is sharing what we learned from this. Because as I was in the hospital bed, several times the nurses came over and said, "Are you getting the vaccine when you get out?" And the answer was, "Hell no, why would I?" But the but the fact is, I was in this hospital and I was in the bed and I'm like, well, this is really bad. But if you do get it, here are the things that you should probably um do if you got it. And to be clear, you're gonna get it.
Yeah, everyone's gonna get it at some point. There's no avoiding it, unless you're asymptomatic, like one of our children was. But you know what amazed me though? Let me tell you what amazed me. Here's what amazed me was how cruel some people could be. They were just Some people were so, and I know, I actually I have really thick skin, so people probably thought I was reacting more than I actually was. But here's the thing: is there are people out there who will say these things. They said them to me, and you just got to brush it off. Um, someone I know, someone I would call a friend, was basically like, "Oh, well, what a sad way to have to learn a lesson. Hope he learns it. Hope he survives." That's what she said. Hope he survives.
Well,
What
I
kind of
did.
what kind of a supportive statement is that? Hope he survives. Who's a Hey, oh, your wife has cancer? Hope she survives. Maybe she should have eaten better. Hope she survives. Awful. I mean, who does that?
Can I share a humorous story?
Yeah, sure. Go
Because
for it.
this was during my high school years. Now, if you're a Latter-day Saint, you have to do this thing called seminary, where you get up early in the morning to do a religious course before you go to high school. It's a pain in the butt. On April Fool's Day, a girl comes in and she's like, and you know, her family members are known for not being so faithful. The dad did drink, which none of us really cared or judged him for. It doesn't. It's just not something we did. But she comes in on April Fool's Day and announces that her father has liver cancer, and everyone is just completely floored by the announcement. None of them realize that it's April Fool's Day, and to be honest, neither had I. Yet that did not stop me from shouting out from the front of the class, "Well, that's what happens." And the entire room went quiet. And right as Carnal's about to put his foot in his mouth, the girl, breaks out in a smile and goes, "April Fools." Now, mind you, I'm sweating bullets of relief. Because again, the foot would have gone in mouth deeper than I could have probably swallowed. Oh, Violence is Life wants you to know, Miss Carnal, that commies aren't people.
Right. I'm telling you, I was going to just get the chopper. I was about to get the chopper. But no, you could almost, and this was amongst a lot of the controversial statements that you'll hear people make. Don't you dare go to the hospital if you haven't gotten a vaccine. Oh my gosh, awful. Awful. And again, it's not like these were strangers. These were people that call themselves my friends, and you meet people, people everywhere, even at church, as this person was, who they like to talk, but they don't walk the walk, um and there was somebody who was a stranger actually on a post, because I thought, let me share my experience, let me share some of the things I'm learning here, because people were talking about, oh well, you should get the vaccine, then you won't get COVID. And I was like, hello, raising my hand, like,
Mm-hmm.
I think you should know this. It might help, but it might not. And I explained, my husband's in the hospital right now. He's got COVID. And here's what I've learned. And some guy chimed in. He was like, so what do you want? Like a cookie? I was like, look, you ask the questions. I'm just giving you the answer. And he didn't like that very much. When I came back at him with a few things and shut him up, but he didn't like that very much. It was really weird. He had a really big chip on his shoulder. I was like, well, I hope you find what you're looking for in life, dude. I don't know what happened to you, but just cover your cornhole from now on or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, well, as far as the timeline goes, what else is there really to share? Oh, hi, Caucasian Sasquatch. Welcome to the stream. If you guys can go into the Discord, you guys can jump in the stream if you would like. I don't know why I didn't announce that earlier. I probably did, but I should probably say it again. There are links in the Discord to the StreamYard show, so anyone can jump in.
Oh, look, Marson said, that's such a defeatist mentality. I have to agree. It was like, oh, you didn't get the vaccine. You're dead. You're dead. You know, like that you're okay with dying, you know, so, you know, expect the worst, hope for the best, you know. So,
Ah, all right. Oh, and it's just I love that conversation where people people still ask me, do you want the vaccine? And no, I don't.
well, I mean, yeah, and people, your own family. I was actually really angry. I was angry. I'm gonna share this. I can't believe I'm sharing this, but I was really angry at you. You know who? At your family,
Uh-huh.
because their whole thing was, I hope you learned your lesson. And the thing is okay. Here's the thing. This wasn't just after he got out of the hospital, guys. This was he was in the hospital. He's like trying to breathe. He's like on the teetering edge of this forced oxygen machine, ready to like go on a ventilator. I'm freaking out because here's the thing, guys. When he first got in there, they gave him this general standard protocol,
And it
and
didn't do jack.
it didn't do jack. If he hadn't had an advocate, I think they looked at him and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's probably doesn't have anybody, you know, calling for. I don't think he's going to have an advocate. You know, we can just get in and watch him go. You know, just watch him slowly go." That was awful. And so, you know, when I had stepped in, I don't think they expected an advocate, and that's when they started, because I you know, people would say this to me, well, just, you know, I'm sure they're doing everything they can. And I was a ball of nerves. I was so stressed out. I was shaking. I was just, and I was like, no, but are they really? Really? Are they?
How do you know?
No, that there's only one way, you know.
Exactly.
And so I, you know, was all up their butt, you know, getting all the info and comparing it to what I knew was out there. And that's when I was like, they're not doing everything they can. They could be doing so much more, and they're not. So,
Yes, sing her praises, Marson. Sing her praises.
and so and so once I knew they were throwing the kitchen sink at it, and people would say that to me, okay, well, I'm sure they're doing all they can. Once I knew they really were, then I had this measure of peace wash over me. That's when I could breathe. And I was like, okay, now we're doing everything we can. Now it's a wait and see. But I'm not going to wait and see when I know you're not doing absolutely everything you can.
Because she still smuggled ivermectin into my room.
But, you know, it the thing is where was I? Let me circle back. Circle back to sorry guys, I got lost down a rabbit hole. Uh
No, it's it just the recovery timeline. I think we were at the doctor's call, and then it was just my wife putting up with my gimpy butt at home, because you have to understand that first night back, like that first night back after I got Freebird syndrome and wanting to like conquer the world, then having my legs burn with the fires of hell, trying to rip, tear, and repair my growing muscle mass that had to grow back. Because by the way, 2 weeks in the hospital, you lose half your muscle mass. That's 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 what I had to look forward to.
oh, I remember where I was at. I was saying
Okay.
I was angry at you know who in your
Oh
family.
yes.
In your family, because while you're sitting there at death's door in the hospital, this family member who what I was checking in with and giving updates to was said, "Well, I hope he's learned his lesson. I hope he gets the vaccine now." I was like,
Never.
he is about to die, and you give me no comfort. You know, you give me no comfort right now. I get more comfort from my children who don't understand than I do from you right now.
Well,
who-
and besides, at that point, there's only two options: antibodies or death. I got antibodies. I
Right.
survived.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
But these are really important things, and I think I've learned a lot about the hospital structure. It used to be, okay, when I was younger, you'd go to the hospital, your doctor would be able to advocate for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and the way it was explained to me, it's not that way anymore. They basically have a group of doctors that is subcontracted by the hospital, this big financial machine, right? And what they say goes, and your doctor gets no say at all. This blew my mind. I was like, what? I never go to the doctor, guys, and I haven't had to deal with hospitals in a really, really long time. So I'm sitting here thinking old school, and when I'm finding out from our doctor that he can't even be involved at all, I was shocked. It blew my mind. I was like, why would you not want the one person who knows this person's medical history?
Because if you
Of
understand
course.
how the hospital system works now and how incestuous they
It's
are with the insurance
yeah,
companies.
it's just a big money
Oh my
machine.
gosh, guys, but before I got to leave the hospital, they said I could leave on Sunday. I didn't leave till Tuesday because they couldn't get their shit together when it came to getting the oxygen they said they need to send me home with. So I finally get home on Tuesday, do Freebird syndrome, and I realize that my oxygen is mostly stable despite them having sent me home with oxygen. So yeah, that was more than annoying.
And Roy, yes, you're absolutely right. It's just an ostracizing is basically where it's going here. But Marson, you're right. It's not necessarily the virus that kills you. You are so right. That is what I learned in my nights, up until 3 a.m., killing myself, doing research, waking up in the morning, and my youngest is eating a chocolate brownie off the table for breakfast because that was what was for dessert the night before. And I was like, she'll live. I have more doctors and nurses to talk to.
Mom is great.
Right.
Let us eat chocolate cake. For
I
those
was
of you who
that's
get that's a Bill Cosby reference for those of you who are old enough to get it.
I was half dead, and I was like, you know what? She's gonna live. It's gonna be okay, and she's happy right now. Um, but so yes, it is the immune system's response to it. And that's what I remember reading. And Dataslav, yeah, I guess it's been that way for 20 plus years. I never go to the doctor. I never go to the hospital. I mean, I did go, to have my children to give birth, but that's it. And that's kind of like not really that involved.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah. Um, yeah, your great amount lowering the blood pressure makes it less likely for them to rupture. Well, from what I understand, Marcin, um, putting, blocking those ACE inhibitors, keeping those ACE receptors, keeping them busy by receiving um, the medication, what medications have to offer, the lowering blood pressure medications have to offer, kind of helps the body play defense in those areas where they would otherwise instead be allowing the virus to enter in through those receptors. And I think that's what that does. Um, Mildred, not fair that you can't have chocolate. That is a shame. That is I will pray for you.
No. You will praise him for the love and consideration that I give you.
That's right. That's right. You no chocolate for you equals more for me, right?
Exactly. Your future spouse, Mildred, will be very fortunate with the chocolate arrangement in your household because she can have all of it. And from sounds of it, on pain of death, apparently.
Martin, you were asking, so it expands the volume of the circulatory system, which lowers fluid pressure. Not sure on that. I did geek out on it, but I don't think I went that far. I just knew what I needed to do. I think I got just enough to get what I needed to help him. But that could be what happens. Yeah, I'm not sure. I should take up trying to go to a doctor. I'm trying to go to be a doctor. No, no, I don't have that kind of time.
Mrs. Carnal, MD.
Right. That's right. That's right. Hide it.
You see,
Hide all the chocolate.
you see, Mildred, I'm the other way around. Like, I'm not attracted to chocolate. I simply have no taste for it.
See, you're so different. Your body's different. It doesn't react to sickness like normal. You don't like chocolate. How? How did this even happen? But yes, we had a lot of different reactions. Mostly we had support throughout the community. That is what we got. Mostly we got support. We did get some haters out there, and I was shocked. It even came from, we got, it was obvious. We saw a lot of the reactions, back and forth of people who were kind of like, well, if you don't get the vaccine, you're something, you don't deserve XYZ. You don't deserve to live, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, we have two announcements. Mildred has joined the stream. How's it going, my good sir? And Marson is asking, what's your favorite dessert? I'm assuming that's the Mrs. Carnal.
One of my favorite desserts is actually tiramisu. Love me some tiramisu.
We're sharing that.
You do like tiramisu. That's right.
How's it going, Mildred?
I found a tiramisu once where on the bottom of the box it was printed, "Do not turn this upside down."
Yeah.
Wait, what?
You heard me.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I was reading. I was in the middle of reading comments, and so I got lost and didn't hear.
No, on a tiramisu dessert at a grocery store once, I saw printed on the bottom of the box, "Do not turn upside down."
Nice.
Which sounds like the kind of thing I would do.
You're not on the bottom of the box. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because somebody's going to be dumb enough to turn it over and then wreck it. and that gets qualified as NOMFOP, NMFP, not my friggin' problem.
Right?
Yeah.
But seriously, one of my I think I've told Carnal this story a long time ago, but one of my coworkers on my birthday decided it would be an absolute hoot to leave a chocolate cake on my desk.
Oh no. Oh no.
What do you do with that? What did you do?
First off, I called up the boss from a place that I used to work at and said, hey, I got a chocolate cake I want to get rid of. You want it? So I'm not gonna throw that out. Are you crazy? But in more civilized times,
I think that was civilized. I think that was very civilized. You did not waste the chocolate cake.
I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In more civilized times, when a gentleman or gentlewoman is sufficiently slighted in that manner, the gloves come off, a slap happens, and both of them deal with pistols at noon, or there is a fight afterwards.
Indeed.
Obviously, I can't do that, and he some people have asked me if he did it on accident. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I was at that job for 2 years by that point. Everybody knew how I refused to touch anything during the Halloween parties, and I was always in a bad mood during Valentine's Day, not for relationship things, but to be surrounded by chocolate when you work for an agriculture firm. So I he had this look like, what are you going to do about it? And yeah, he was a foot shorter than me, so I probably could have smacked him around, but that's not interesting. There's no sport in that, because
You see, Mildred, you have just encapsulated my favorite threat to my children, which is simply thus: don't make me get creative.
uh, I've heard stories that Arnold Schwarzenegger would threaten his kids into behaving by saying, if you don't stop acting up, I'm gonna force you to watch Red Sonja.
Oh my god!
Um, whether that constitutes child abuse, I'll leave up to you. But I had said, you know what? I could beat you up, but that's too easy, because even if I break your arm or something like that, you'll eventually recover.
Could you imagine how something would like that would go? Oh, sir, what did he do? He gave me chocolate cake.
So I first I ended up doing a bit of scouting, and in order to figure out what weakness I could exploit. And since this is an office setting, there was one very clear weakness: coffee.
Oh, this is good. This
So,
is very, very good.
first off, I knew not only where the coffee machine was, but also where they kept the beans and where they kept the grinder, as well as all the other knickknacks. Why? Because I asked the janitor nicely.
Mrs. Carnal is rubbing her paws.
I am. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear.
So I
this is
switched.
gonna be good.
So I asked around if I could get, when it came to getting decaffeinated beans, and I switched those out for the regular ones. I switched out the coffee that was already ground with decaf, and I made sure to put the regular beans on the highest shelf I could find, because as Carnal can vouch for, I am not a short man.
He is vertically superior than most.
Yes.
Vertically superior. I love it.
Uh, and there's been plenty of times where somebody comes up to me and asks, "Hey, Menagerie, can you get this thing off the top shelf for me?" And then I say yes, and then I go back to what I was doing. And any smart man knows where that person went wrong, because when they say, "Can you get this thing off the top shelf?" what are they actually saying?
Will you please?
Very good. Now, why didn't I do it?
Because they did not ask.
Exactly. But that was only the first part, because I knew I was going to be out of town for a few days. So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Go to a whole other state to look for one guy? I I also switched out all of the sugar with salt. I switched out the powdered creamer.
Dude,
with
remind me
flour,
not to piss you off.
and I switched out the liquid creamer with coconut milk.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's enough to mix. That's enough to mess with it, but not enough to like. Oh, I've gone anaphylactic.
Unsweetened.
See, now I now work in a warehouse setting. Understanding that your setting was purely office, from what I heard before.
Yeah.
Did you have to go full scorched earth on these people?
First off, I end up getting about 24 texts as I'm leaving, as I'm in the airport, asking what I did, so people figured out that it was my doing, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
I'm going off the grid for the next 3 days. Bye.
Right. Mom's the word. Mom is the word. I have no idea.
I get back after my vacation, and I find out that a memo has been put up that I am not allowed near the coffee machine without supervision.
Marson said ass water.
What? Why?
You gave me ass water.
And as far as the guy who did this, I did something special with him. He would always have one of those big Hershey bars that you see in like movie theaters.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I know this one.
Well, one day he left it. There's been times where he's left it completely wrapped and unsupervised. And
He's been unsupervised.
I took advantage by. Now one would normally think that you just swipe the thing and just eat it. No, that would be a little too obvious. I swiped it,
That'd be
carefully unwrapped the thing, and when I say carefully, I mean with the amount of care that you do when trying to fold origami.
Uh-huh. I am familiar with this technique.
Took the Hershey bar out, replaced it with a matching sized bar of unsweetened dark baking chocolate. Carefully rewrapped the thing and put it back where I found it.
You couldn't have gone with Cocoa Lax. I wanted it to be Cocoa Lax.
Do you have any idea how bitter unsweetened chocolate is?
It is pretty
Okay.
bitter.
Him spitting it out versus him having the shits later.
Well, the thing with the shits is I've already done that gag. That was my parting gift to my high school.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
That was how I did a massive scheme to ruin 3 proms at 3 schools in the span of a week.
Actually, you had someone steal your lunch recently at work.
Yes, but I have not identified them yet.
Nobody ever stole my lunch because I made sure to have it booby trapped.
You made sure to supervise it. He said a chocolate bar. He left it unsupervised. I'm picturing like people with leashes, like taking their chocolates everywhere, just in case.
Well, there was one.
He's in the office.
There was one person who thought they stole my lunch, and what they really stole was a decoy that was a tackle box full of leeches.
Oh no! Oh.
Okay. This is like gym level paranoia with the prank strategy of Dwight. How have you managed this combination?
There's no. You notice there's no like meter. It's like either like. It's either like 5 miles per hour or like 100.
People do not appreciate the art of the practical joke. Most people, their idea of doing a prank is doing the hand in warm water or doing the shaving cream and the tickle while somebody's asleep. And those are amateur hour. I believe in elevating it to an art. And the best way to do that is with planning, preparation, and having the will to do something that would be absolutely nuts to anyone else. But I'm not doing anything all that ridiculous. It's just that I have the brass balls to actually go through with it.
Well, I'm when I was a kid, what people would do pick up dog poop in a paper bag and set it on fire on someone's doorstep, right? And then ding dong door ditch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was like, that was hardcore right there. But leeches, man, that's I wouldn't even know where to get that.
Oh, I'm from Minnesota, and fishing's a big deal.
Right.
So it's easy to, and more often than not, people will fish with leeches.
Really? I did not know this.
Okay, so you're in. You said you're in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Minnesota's a state, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just
It's okay. COVID hit the brain.
COVID did hit the brain.
Carnal,
Okay.
you should know by now that I am not the most forgiving type.
No. Hang on. I think I was confusing Minnesota with Wisconsin.
Cardinal, if you weren't in another state, I would smack you for that.
I was gonna say it's okay, honey.
Forgive me.
We can't all be good at everything. It's okay.
Just not right now. Just not right now.
Look,
Okay.
if you get a guy from Minnesota and a guy from Wisconsin in the same room, the only thing that they will ever agree on is that one of them is wrong.
There you go. There you go.
Look, let me put it in a way that perhaps you'll understand. You do not go to any public place and blast in Texas and blast the fight song from the University of Oklahoma.
I'm sorry, repeat that?
You don't go to any place in Texas and blast the fight song from the University of Oklahoma.
No,
right,
you don't.
Exactly. No, not unless you're like trying to start a fight.
But no, Mrs. Carnal actually normally doesn't meet the internet. So Mildred is actually one of the people who did I've interacted on the role play side of things. He does
okay.
the interviews with the system that I made and all of that all those shenanigans.
Did you see Data?
Yes.
No, you can't put a hand grenade in your lunchbox.
Oh please, it was just a flashbang.
But was it a holy flashbang?
So, have you had COVID yet?
No.
No. Okay. I wonder how many of our listeners have actually had COVID.
A cleansing light.
Or at the very least, if I did, it was during that 1 week when I was down with a seasonal cold. So
well,
it may have gotten mildly mixed into that because that ended up hitting me harder than usual. But I by some miracle I ended up powering through it, and I've been looking at everything that goes down with and I've had to say I am in a weird way grateful for one thing. It is very easy to tell who actually sticks to their principles when you put their feet to the fire.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
My mentor would always say everybody thinks they're a good person until they might get punched in the face.
That's true. That's a really good one. I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Roy says he had kung flu, and Dave Slav says he got COVID in May or June of 20, and you were one of the plasma donors. Oh wow!
Yeah.
I thought y'all fished with cheese.
But one of my more infamous memories when it
Violence as well.
when it comes to all of this coof insanity was the time some Karen screamed at me while I was out biking.
Hmm.
Um, I was in I there's a fair few parks where I am, even in the new place that I moved into about a week ago. Um, just in time for the weather to start getting colder. I know that's a foreign concept down there to an extent, but
Oh no, we just had Snowmageddon. We understand, sort of.
snow. Oh please,
I know, I know. I'm being facetious. I know you're in Minnesota.
yeah. Like I got so when Snowmageddon happened, I got so many people from across the pond messaging me about whether or not assuming that I had gotten caught in it, and I'm like, dude, that was in Texas. I'm in
This is
Minnesota.
me like every day.
Pretty much, especially especially in January.
You didn't have it. You didn't have people. What do we do? What do we do?
I was smack dab in the middle of that polar vortex a few years ago. You want to talk about cold? There you go. Where it's like 65 below. Where it's so cold you need to have a scarf on, otherwise you can't breathe.
So Marson is asking Snowmageddon. Yes, we had what what we're calling Snowmageddon. I think it uh was it this past year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
Yeah,
that
past
winter storm
January.
last year.
yeah. We had people. It just we get snow every 5 or 10 years here, and it's not. We do get snow every once in a while, so it's not like we haven't seen it, but we don't deal with it the way that other places do. Other places are like salting their streets and getting like snow dozers and moving snow around and shoveling. We don't. We're not prepared for it because we don't get it often enough. So when it strikes us, we are big babies. We're like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. We're not driving anywhere. Not only because do we not know how to deal with it, but we are not prepared to deal with it because it doesn't happen often enough. And this last one that we got was the likes of what we have not seen in what feels like ever.
Yeah.
Pipes were busting, people's homes were like flooding. I mean, it was awful for us, and we were like, oh, what do we do? And it's stuff that other people have dealt with no problem. The problem was that our power grid was taxed to the absolute max. So much so that um, they were rotating power outages everywhere. And they at first, of course, as goes with the government, they told us, oh, it'll only be for like a half hour at a time. Nope. There was some places that lost power for days. And in some places, unfortunately, children actually died of cold because out here we are mobile home country. We've got these tin cans that are basically serve at homes as homes
Yeah.
in some areas, and they have almost no insulation. And some people unfortunately died as a result. And so we call it Snowmageddon. And the stores were out of everything. It was ridiculous. Luckily, Carnal and I, do a pretty decent job of
Prepping.
prepping for these kinds of things because they do happen. And we have a wood burning fireplace, and we've got firewood, and we were able to keep warm. And we invited others to come if they needed. No one took us up on the offer. But we did have friends whose pipes burst and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Oh, and I do feel bad for the people who got caught in it on one hand. That's the rare nice part of me. Um, on the other hand, being where I come from and getting needled from my southern friends every year for decades about with both friends and families the whole Haha, you're stuck up there you're stuck up there half frozen and it's nice and warm down here. I'd be
Yeah.
lying if I said if I didn't enjoy a bit of karma, and they haven't needled me about that since. It's like, yeah, now you know what it's like on the other side of the glass, don't you?
Well, let me just add a little salt in that wound. Before I moved to Texas, I was from California, and Californians love to say, "I like to be in this. I like to watch the snow from my television set." And I hated that mentality, but let me be perfectly honest. I despise the snow. I don't mind cold at all. The problem is I've never experienced snow outside of, cold and wet. Now, maybe if it was cold and dry, I'd change my mind, but I haven't experienced that yet. So I'm just pretty much put off snow indefinitely.
I enjoy the kids having fun in it. That brings me joy being able. But for me, once every through 5 to 7 years, I'm good with that. I'm like that's enough snow for me.
I just look at the snow and I say, "Hey, free ammo." 'Cause I've used snow for one of my infamous stunts because for some reason I had half a dozen lunch trays from a nearby school. Don't ask me how I got them because I didn't ask for them. They just happened to be in the house.
They
Okay,
just
so
happened to be in the house. I'm
yeah,
just kidding.
so apparently, Sasquatch is doing my job for me, reminding everyone to like the stream.
Mhm.
So, as always, guys, do your part and like the stream at
like the
least.
stream.
And so apparently, we also have. Is Roy in Afghanistan right now? Like,
Yeah,
because
Roy.
he did a comment before where he said he was negative 40 in his underwear on the top of the truck, apparently. And I know that Roy had served, but I didn't know he was currently in Afghanistan.
I'm doubting that, but inquiring minds want to know.
Yes, yes, we do.
Yeah.
I've heard horror stories about what happens when the AC in the truck goes out.
Yeah. Well,
That's yeah, Carrie. My thoughts exactly. He should not be physically in Afghanistan. I thought he was referring to the past.
Well,
but,
I did too, and I was just like, I'm not so sure that the abilities of the whole live stream and getting in, but you never know. I don't know. I get surprised now. Everything's great now. I'm old school, and my kids are like, I'll try to bring up cartoons or something from when I was a kid and show them. I'm like, oh, look, this was the best. And for me, it's just nostalgia, I guess, because they see it and they're like, oh, the graphics are horrible. I'm like, you shut up and you like it.
I have done my fair share of videos and streams warning people about overindulgence in nostalgia.
Right. And then, that's a lesson I've learned through my kids. Everything now is spectacular, even bad movies. Everything's just visually spectacular. So I don't get surprised anymore. With technology, with visuals, with everything, it's just everything's spectacular, on how far we can go with things. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but I have got to get going because I am getting called elsewhere. But it was nice to catch up with you, Carnal, and nice to meet you, Miss Carnal.
Nice to meet you too.
I
by the
will
way.
probably bully you. I'll probably bully you later, Carnal. So
Yeah.
stay frosty.
No, don't bully him.
let
We
me-
know how you bully.
Well, hang on. Let me let me do one last outro. Mildra was the gentleman I met up with at that convention that our that little T really liked, our daughter, and she had fun there, and Mildra was part of that. So it would be nice to catch up some other time. No, stream is not over. In fact, Violence is Life brought up prepping, and Mrs. Carnal wants a garden that I have to set up
Yes,
with cinder blocks
very much.
and take over.
Beware of
The
rabbits. That's all I'll say. Stay frosty.
hey, stay frosty. And as for rabbits are concerned, that's why we have a wonderful guardian pit bull.
Yes, but likewise, thank you so much, and we are so thankful for all of you, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
He's already gone.
Oh, great. Well, good. Everybody should know.
Yes.
Hmm.
All right. Is there anything else that we would like to address or bring up in the chat?
Well, I wanted to ask. Okay, so a few people had talked about how they had COVID. Was anyone hospitalized? Well, our listeners, was anyone hospitalized? Because I gotta say that the getting it is one thing, and that's the thing. A lot of people who haven't gotten it, they're like treating it like it's a death sentence or whatever. But in our household, there are 6 of us here, and 4 of us got it. You know, and actually 5 of us got it, right? Um, and for the kids, it was nothing. Like they bounced back. And for me, yeah, I got it a little more, but I bounced back too. But I'll tell you, his experience at the hospital was completely different. And I'm wondering, I just want to see if anyone else has experienced anything.
Well, we have comments.
Similar.
Caucasian says he was not hospitalized, but it did almost kill him.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then we have Marson, who didn't get it, but is well aware of comorbidities.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie says he barely even knew he had it,
Mm-hmm.
which, those are the optimal cases that I was honestly expecting that I didn't get.
Well,
Meanwhile, Roy is saying, I will be on death's door before I go to the VA for a damn thing.
oh gosh, you are not the first person I've heard say that. Marson has, yes, vitamin D levels, definitely a risk factor. That was huge. That was one of the things that our PCP prescribed to us, that when Carnal had gone to the hospital, they did not have him taking. They didn't have him on vitamin C. They didn't have him on zinc. They didn't have him on vitamin D. And I yelled at them, and I was like, this costs you almost nothing. I don't
Yeah.
understand why you don't have him on these things. And again, they gave him this general crappy protocol that it almost seemed like, well, let's see if he makes it, but and yes, you're absolutely right. The comorbidities, comorbidity,
Yes.
comorbidities are a huge thing. A lot of people are trying to compare, um, you know, our experience here in the US or even in other similar places with, like, say, places like, where is it? The Netherlands, where they've supposedly decided, and I don't know if it's true or not. I heard it might have been like not true, where they're like, oh yeah, it's no worse than the flu. We're not gonna treat it like anything any worse than the flu, because they're just not having the same levels of you know um seriousness as we are here,
Well,
or in.
what's interesting, Martha, is that in addition to that, there are places with high percentages of vaccination, like up in the 90s to near 100%.
Right.
And they're going into more and more lockdowns because people keep getting more and more sick.
Right. Right, exactly. But look at the Netherlands, right? Like they're not really getting it, or if they do, it's like really not bad
And
at
they
all.
have no COVID
They
restrictions.
well, and not only that, but their comorbidity levels are vastly, vastly different from ours. Their
Hmm.
diet is vastly different from ours. They aren't. I don't know if they are or not. My guess is that they're not shoving. What is it? The sweetener, the high fructose corn syrup, and all these kinds
Oh,
of
yes.
things. In their foods,
Aspartame.
yeah, and whatever else. Um, but a lot of people kind of want to treat how we handle COVID the same as some of these other places, and I'm like, well, as much as I'd love to be like, oh yeah, I'm not so sure that we can't look at it the same way. Is You're talking about two different ways that, cultures and ways that we handle things. Um, but you're right. You're right. There's places that they have and look at Australia, right? And what's happening. Well, where is Australia now? I haven't really seen. I know they were like talking about setting up camps and things like that.
Australia is getting worse.
Oh my goodness.
Australia is slowly and steadily getting
That's
worse.
so awful. I mean, I've seen they're talking about like martial law kind of stuff. I
Mhm.
mean, it just
Well,
blows my mind.
another country that has high vaccination rates is Israel.
Right.
Nearly everyone's vaccinated, and they're going for more shutdowns, more restrictions. There's I heard this on the Lotus Eaters, of course. Gibraltar is a island right off the coast of England,
Mhm.
which has high Spanish, not immigration, but the Spanish go there for work, for
Okay.
employment,
Yeah.
and it technically has a 118% vaccination rate
How do you have 118% vaccination?
because of the
Doesn't even
people
make
coming
sense.
into Gibraltar from other places.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how that happens, but okay.
So there are more people who are vaccinated in Gibraltar than technically live there.
Okay.
And they're still getting sick. They're still having shutdowns. They're still having these COVID restrictions because of people still, despite being vaccinated, getting. Yes, Gibraltar is in Spain, but it's an island owned by the British.
Right.
Carrie.
Well, and let me say this, okay? Looking at all this data, I mean, I respect you not wanting to get the vaccine. You know what, guys? Let me share this with you. There was a point. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not full disclosure here. I'm not gonna lie. When Carnal was in the hospital, there was, of course, I am only human. A point where I just got so upset and I was crying and I was like, I wish he had gotten the vaccine. I was like, I wish he had just, put his stubbornness aside and gotten the vaccine for the sake of his family and this and that. I really made it about, that, you know, um, and the thing is that, we all have agency and we all need to be able to make our decisions. I wouldn't, you know, um, try to force you, you know. Um, and I think that's what some people were getting at. They were like, "Well, you need to make your husband." I was like, I don't know. I don't know about that. I respect his agency. I respect his decision. Yes, I was upset. I'm only human. I was looking at death in the face. He was looking at death in the face, um, and it almost took him from me. And I was thinking, gosh, how am I going to survive? How is my family going to survive this? My children not having their father, my husband not being by my side. I am a stay-at-home mom, so we are so completely dependent on you. And I was glad I got the shot, but you know, we're seeing everywhere that whether people get the vaccine or not, you're still having severe cases. Some of the severe cases. Now, I will say, in the hospital, they say that I've heard that maybe 9 out of 10 people in the hospital that go in due to COVID are not vaccinated. Now, those, I'm not sure. I didn't actually see the data on this. This was just hearsay. It was just something I heard from the nurses. And as much as, nurses, yes, they're a part of the healthcare community. They're not necessarily the end all in the data, as far as the data goes. That's more from, the paper pushers and administrators and things like that. So it sounds right to me. I don't know. A lot of things could sound right, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true.
So, but yeah, I think mainly with Mrs. Carnal, it was mainly a question of, well, what if, and what if it had been better, and
Yeah.
and my only comeback to that is, well, we don't know, and until having been hospitalized, I couldn't have known either way.
Right. Exactly.
And that's
just where we had to leave it, right? Yeah.
That is where you have to leave it. And the irony is that once you get it, there's no point in trying to get a vaccine.
Right, exactly. At that point, it's you deal with it, and then you hopefully get the antibodies.
Well, and now, to be clear, just full disclosure, so everybody knows, my doctor, after I got COVID, did not even recommend me getting the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
But I will be getting a pneumonia vaccine, a pneumonia inoculation. Now, I understand that pneumonia is not a sickness, it's a symptom. So who knows what high-end cocktail this is. However,
it's supposed to be good for 5 years, right?
It's good for 5 years.
Yeah.
They normally give it to the elderly to help them cope with seasonal sicknesses so that they don't get pneumonia and die. But it is a more proven treatment than the COVID vaccine. So I will gladly partake of that solution. I would gladly take that from my doctor because, I trust his judgment. He prescribed ivermectin at my wife's request on my behalf. So he has that going for him. And it has more history than what we know with COVID.
Right. And Marson, you're absolutely right. You can play the what if game until you're blue in the face. It's just, it's easier said than done. And when you're going through it, you're just having all the feels. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We just kind of had to leave it where it was and go from there. And just, if anyone out there listening is going through this, if you have a loved one in the hospital or someone who is going through this and dealing with the COVID, just educate yourself. It's so important. Feel free to DM me, and or DM Carnal, and he'll get a message to me, and I can recommend some videos that are really, really good for educating yourself on, what this is and how it works, and what other treatments might be available that isn't in the general standard protocol. Maybe it's too expensive. I'm pretty sure the monoclonal antibodies is not a cheap thing to throw at it. But there are other things that you can and need to advocate for, because only you are going to advocate the best that you can. We don't live in a day and age anymore where you can kind of depend on your doctor to be able to do that for you anymore. They've made sure to cut them out as far as the hospital networks go. But again, reach out. We are so so very thankful to everyone who supported us, everyone who's been supporting us. We're so grateful. Let's see, Dataslav, you lost an uncle. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. Carrie's not taking it well. Oh, I'm so sorry. Definitely, the things you can ask for, if you missed it earlier or anything like that, the monoclonal antibodies, the Redemsivir, the ACE inhibitors, ivermectin. But ivermectin, you may want to find a PCP who can prescribe it, and if you need some assistance in figuring out how to get it to them, let me know. But it does require that they're not on a ventilator, because as everyone knows, on a ventilator you can't actually take it, and at that point you are having to depend on the doctors and what they can put in that IV bag, what they're willing to put in that IV bag. And that's what's terrible. You can advocate for yourself, but that doesn't mean they're going to do what you're asking them to, even if it's for the better. But hopefully you've learned something or gotten something from this, or at the very least felt our love and support and thankfulness for everything that everyone's done. So we certainly hope for the recovery of Papa Carey.
Well, and that's our story, guys. And once again, thank you one and all who donated to the GoFundMe, who helped us out. That money really did.
Yes.
It really did. It made a world of difference.
That's the other side of it. Is that you were not able to work.
Yeah.
For, we thought, maybe it'd be a few weeks, but during your quarantine, while you were in the hospital, after your hospitalization, because you were just too weak, and then your work was like, hey, you need a release to come back to work. I mean, it was crazy, and it was amazing, because we didn't, if we hadn't been able to lean on that, I'm not sure we'd be here in our home right now.
No, we would not have been able to pay the mortgage. Everyone who donated to that helped sustain us and helped us keep our home.
Yeah.
That cannot be understated. So thank you to every single one of you.
Yes. Thank you. It means a lot.
And as you said, I'm the only earner for the household. That weight fell on my shoulders, and
we felt it.
So again, thank you one and all. And if there's not anything else, I think we'll end it here.
Yeah, we love you. Stay safe. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Thanksgiving. Spend time with your families. Hug them tight. And be good.
Yeah, and yes, Marcin, it was the difference between a warm bed and the streets.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yes, for sure.
So once again, thank you one and all. And
have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone. Stay carnal and God bless.
Peace out.
Peace out.